Hi and welcome. This is Tina Persson from PhD Career Stories. And today's guest is a PhD, and her name is Sajni Haria. And she has a PhD in drag design of nano articles from Birmingham. But today, she is working as a business development manager in life science sector at the National Institute of Health and Care Research. And some interesting background from her, which she told me, is that she has been an event coordinator in UK in the Hindu Society, and this woman has lived in Kenya for 8 years before she came back because she was born in UK, then lived in Kenya for 8 years and then coming back and started the primary school there. So you have a very interesting background that we're going to have a short discussion around here. So welcome to the show, Sadia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's a
Yeah.
pleasure.
It's a
Um,
pleasure to have you here. We started the discussion here before I pressed the
yeah,
recording button. I said, we have some thundering and lightning going on because I'm sitting in my home in Malmö in Copenhagen metropolitan here. So we hope that this thundering and lightning not disturbing the recording here. So how is it in London where you're living?
I've just moved to a new part of London. I used to live with my parents. I've moved to a place called West Hampstead, which is lovely. Very hot weather at the moment, but
Yes.
I think it's cooled down a bit today, so that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so London life is good at the moment. Um,
London live, and I know you have a strike here going on in London, so
yeah,
it's
we
a
have
lot going on.
travel.
Yeah, you
Travel
travel.
strikes. Yeah, there's just so today's working from home day. There's no absolutely no going anywhere.
Oh, it's good that we learn to work from remote, isn't it?
Yeah, hybrid
Pandemic.
working style. Yeah,
Hybrid working style.
yeah.
Yeah, it's hot here too. So yes, I am sweating in my flat. I said Swedish houses are not built for the heat wave that we have. But going back, you have a wonderful background, and you work as a business development manager. I'm curious, what kind of skills do you have or did you learn as a PhD that you could make use of in the job you have today?
So after I finished my PhD, I got a grant to go onto a program which is all about commercialization of university research. So using my sort of commercial background, the program trains you to have a business entrepreneurial mindset, to sort of go through this market research of your research. You do everything yourself. So they really, really train you. That's what the grant was for. So
Mm.
essentially, I got all my skills from that basically.
You got your skills from there.
I
Yeah.
got my skills from that. But from my PhD, you don't just have academic skills behind you. You have such a huge skill set. You have adaptability because we teach to students. You have being able to work under pressure. It's a huge pressure, challenging environment. You have all these sort of different transferable skills that you can apply to. So never forget that you just have an academic background because you don't. You have so much more than that.
Mm.
Um, so I guess so those skills, along with the sort of commercial skills that I developed during the program, is what allowed me to sort of get into the industry that I am now, which is sort
Mm.
of business development, commercialization.
Commercial business. But you say entrepreneurship. What is entrepreneurship mindset for you?
So I think because as a student, as with a sort of PhD chemistry background, my mindset was always thinking about the science, about the technology that I was working on, but I never really thought about do people actually need what I'm working on? Do people is this actually something that's wanted? Would someone actually buy this? Or if people don't want to buy it, how can I tailor it to something that they would want to buy? So that the benefits of my technology matches with the pains of a customer. So it's really trying to change your mindset to think in a business way so that you're always fitting to what a customer needs, for what a big market
Mm.
needs. So you're always thinking about some sort of market opportunity, because when you do research, you really delve into something that you're interested in or something that you find along the way, and it might not necessarily be something that the world needs. So
Yeah, and this is, interesting here because a PhD, you train a lot of skills, but it
yes,
doesn't necessarily train you to think from the customer's perspective. Because
not at all.
not at all. Yeah. So
Um,
entrepreneurial mindset, is it something that you can train, or is it something that you maybe have a natural gift for if you realize what it is? What do you think?
I'm not sure if it's a natural gift because I think it's something that you really need to practice because it was such a new concept to me that I found it hard in the beginning. But once you go and start talking to
Mm,
people, talking to a range of people across the supply chain, seeing where the problems are, you start to beginning to have these sort of business conversations. Because if I'm talking to someone who's not from a scientific background, I can't talk in the scientific language because they're
no.
just going to lose interest, aren't
Yeah.
they? So
Yeah.
I really need to make sure I'm engaging with people. So I need to be adaptable in the way I talk, which is where your skills from a PhD comes in useful because you might have presented at a conference, you might have presented at different
Mm,
different scientific backgrounds, for example, if they're not from your research unit. So you just need to transfer that skill into a commercial environment where you're
mm,
adapting your language to people with different backgrounds, essentially.
mm,
So that's a skill that I've learned only by talking and practicing a lot,
mm. But could
and I'm
it
still
be?
learning.
Yeah, yeah, still learning.
I'm still
And
learning.
I'm going to test your hypothesis here because I'm curious because what I have noticed is that people that don't have a PhD, they sort of they create and build companies, and they sort of start to generate money. And they don't have a PhD. You can go back to people that maybe don't even have an academic degree, and they start a bakery, and they generate money in the bakery. They
Yeah.
don't necessarily have a PhD, and I would say that's also sort of entrepreneurial. So could it be different sort of the entrepreneurial you say when you have a PhD, and then you have to train you to see from a customer's point of view? What's your perspective of the different?
I think that's to do with experience because
Yeah.
they've been working in a completely different environment. They've gained a sort of commercial knowledge in their industry in a completely different way, maybe
Mm.
in a more natural way because they're already out there talking to people, trying to
Talking with people, yeah.
trying to do things.
Yeah.
Whereas when you do your PhD, you're in. I'm in my chemistry department. All most people who I speak to are all academic people.
Mm,
I hardly, unless I have a joint PhD with industry, which I didn't. Only some people did. I never had that experience. And anyway, when I present, it's always to an academic audience. So
yeah.
I never had that engagement, and that's what I was trying to break was to get to sort of build up my commercial experience, because it's very different. And I think that's maybe how why, for example, someone who doesn't have a PhD, they've started their company, their experience is totally different, and maybe they've built up that sort of CV for them, so they're able to have this knowledge that we don't have.
Mm,
It's a
mm.
completely different skill set or different knowledge set.
No, it's a
Um,
different skill set, different knowledge
yeah,
set. Yeah. Mm,
yeah.
mm, mm,
But I think both valuable as each other.
mm, mm. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah. So if you now go back here, would you, if you put it that way, redo your PhD with the knowledge you have today?
Oh, definitely. I think
Yeah.
I would want to drive my PhD. Actually, I think this is having just thought about what you've asked me. I was just thought of on the spot. This should be something that's taught to you. Sort of thinking about how your project could be used in the future as a technology or a product or whatever you're
Mm,
building,
mm,
because if you have that in your mind from the beginning, you can direct your PhD towards a commercial direction from the get go. So you're actually developing something that people want to buy or want to use.
mm,
Um, you might have time to go and talk to potential customers, find a market opportunity, and this could you could spin something out,
mm,
instead of waiting a lot longer. It can take years to spin out from a university technology. You can get things patented a lot quicker if you have this knowledge about
Yeah,
IP.
exactly. So it could be different fields that you develop. It
Different.
could be that
I think you could move your project forward a lot
move your
more.
profile, yeah, but maybe it's different fields that you need a PhD and for a certain mindset, and then retrain you sort of, and grow into entrepreneurial and
Yeah.
business for certain fields.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
But
because
the
they are many companies today. They are so technology driven. So
Yeah,
so you need a fundamental basis of
exactly.
understanding of the field.
Exactly. That's where the advantage of me having a PhD comes
Yeah,
into the
yeah.
job I'm doing now, is because of my technical background. So when companies come to us, they have these technologies that I've never heard of, but I'm able to read
Mm,
about it,
yeah.
quickly understand what they're trying to do. So I'm able to really understand their priorities, what they really
Mm.
want to get out of the support that we might be able to give them.
Yeah. Mhm. So now I hear something important. What you say here is that you will be the bridge, to really
Yes.
quickly understand the technology, translate the language so clients and customers can understand the importance. So it is this translation here. Mm,
That's exactly what my job is. I was
mm,
kind of doing it before when I got the grant, but in a different way because I was coming from a researcher
mm,
background, whereas
mm,
now I'm coming from a business development background. But
mm,
I'm sort of that bridge between academia, universities who are doing research, and industry who want to collaborate with the researchers. So
mm.
I'm that sort of bridge helping them come together
A
essentially.
couple of them to come together,
Yeah.
because sales, and I work with sales. A lot of sales is to actually understand your clients and understand what needs they have. So
Yes.
when you understand their needs, you can tailor your questions to them and present, so they understand, okay, we need this product here, because both customers, organizations you're selling to might not at the moment see the potential in your product.
And this is exactly one of the things that
Mm.
I was trained
Yeah.
on during
Yeah.
the commercialization program, which is something that I wouldn't have got from my PhD, which is
No.
sort of where the entrepreneurial mindset comes into
Mindset
play.
comes in.
All these things that they've trained us
Mm.
on, because when you have a conversation with someone, you really want to show them that you're trying to understand them, understand their needs. Your support is personalized to them, because you're not going to get anywhere if they don't feel that they have a good relationship with you, that they can trust you.
They can trust
Um,
you. Mm.
yeah, so that's definitely where that sort of training I got came into play, and I was able to leverage both of the skill sets I have in the job I am today.
Mhm. So the program you attended, what program? How did you apply for it? You said you got a scholarship for it, or
Yeah, so
did,
it's called ICURE, which stands for Innovation and Commercialization of University Research. It's funded by quite a few organisations in the UK, and we had a few research groups in the chemistry department in Birmingham, where I worked before, go through the program, sort of find a few opportunities, whether it's licensing their technologies, or spinning out, or finding really good industry collaborations. Um, and the technology that my research group were working on, we had a lot of protected IP, so we had a patent on it. And I think it was getting to a really good stage where we were thinking, what can we do with this research now? Which is when I applied for the grant. I successfully got onto the program, and then this program was then there for us to sort of drive the work forward, find any good opportunities, whether it's licensing
mm,
deals,
mm.
spinning out, if that's the best option for it, or if it's just directing it towards different commercial activities, if we found that the work that we're doing is actually not valuable for the industry that we wanted to go into.
So if you have no listeners here, and they say, okay, I'd like to go to that program that Sajid was doing, how do they get access to that program?
So there are loads of different types of accelerator programs in the UK. I'm not sure about other European countries, but
Mm.
in the UK there are things called accelerator programs, where it's a very short amount of time. So, for example, 3 to 6 months, they give you this training, and It basically gives you time out the lab to go and test your theories on potential customers. That's essentially what the grant, the money that you're being given is to do.
Mm.
So you have to apply to these grants. There are different. I don't know too many, but iCure, the one that I did, is run by different organisations. So the one that I did was called Set Squared. But there are also ones run by I think West Midlands, which is in the middle of the UK.
Yeah.
So there are different organisations with they're basically partnerships that with universities that come together. And the university essentially employs you. You get onto this program, and then you have all these business mentors and advisors who are training you, and they basically help you along your journey because you do everything yourself.
Mm.
But you also have a tech transfer officer from university who supports you with sort of IP knowledge, and a business advisor who you employ.
Oh,
Um,
wow. So it's an extensive program that you're doing.
Very.
But if we
And
now, we talked about your background here, Saji, sorry for interrupting you. So if you now listen to her, you know, that if you have a PhD, if it's like, and you listen, oh God, I like to learn that entrepreneurial stuff. I like to, you know, see the connection and learnings, what I have learned, and customize it and then bring it on the market and see the value in it is, you know, selling it to the market. I love to do that. You know, listen here, because it is possible. You know, if you're living in the UK here, you have one program, and I'm quite sure that you can find other programs where you are living, or maybe even in the digital world now you can find programs on the internet and etc. But I like to take you in the future here now, and that means now you are a business development manager. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
oh, in 5 years.
Yeah.
I really want to sort of gain sort of increase my commercial experience and knowledge and talking to companies so that in the future I have sort of all this because also I work for for the NIHR. It's government funded, so we have a massive overview over what happens in the UK with the NHS. We have a lot of knowledge from coming from the Department of Health and Social Care. So the position I'm in is so good for me to learn at the moment. So I really want to increase that. I keep that under my belt so that in the future I'm able to go somewhere, whether it's in the same company
Yeah.
or someone somewhere else, and move higher and be able to sort of lead teams, be able to sort of be in a more strategic position, I guess. Yeah, I think that's what my plan is at the moment because I'm learning so much at the moment. I want to continue to a really
Mm.
good point. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I understand that. You know, it's not a quick fix. And I
no.
share with you, some of you that know my background know that I, as an assistant professor, moved over to business development. And it took me many years to really develop into the field and working in different positions and having different perspective of the business. You know, business, I was branch manager, recruitment manager, sales representative, different perspective, but still selling and earning money in the end by developing the product basically. And it's fun when you like it. It's not for everyone, and that is what makes me curious. What is it in this that you think is fun, that gives you energy in this job?
So when I was on iCure, what really made me fall in love with it, which is why I wanted to sort of apply for jobs in this business development, was the fact that I'm actually moving a technology forward.
Mm.
I'm I'm not, even though I'm not doing research, which is just so much hard work goes behind building a patented technology, and I really appreciate it, obviously, because I did a PhD.
Yeah.
But what I was doing was finding opportunities, really actually trying to implement a technology into a real world setting, so that it could potentially be used in the future, potentially save people's lives, improve people's quality of life in the health in the life sciences industry, which is why I really like business development because you see so many technologies out there and they have such huge potential. So if we could help them really try to get through the TRL pathway into implementation with the NHS, it would be amazing because there's obviously since COVID, there's a huge
Mm.
backlog, especially in the
Yeah.
UK. I'm not sure with Sweden, but we have a huge backlog in hospitals,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
waiting times,
Mm.
and it's really innovation that is going to push this forward to sort of overcome these challenges that we have now.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I think innovation is so interesting to me
It
to
is
get
interesting,
through
yeah.
commercial.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm, mm. Yeah,
so
we
that's
have the
what.
same challenge as you can. We are completely backlogged in Sweden. They said in the city where I'm living, we have a huge hospital, and the queue to operation is all the way from Malmö to Copenhagen, if we just count the people. So it's awful long queue
Yeah.
because of the pandemic. So the pandemic has changed a lot. If you look in the field you are, because I'm hooking on here now, and you said pandemic, what would you say that pandemic has changed in the field you are active in?
So I think before COVID, the whole of UK was very much a reactive response
Mm,
to when anything happened. But I think now it's embedded also in the NHS long term plan that as an industry, especially in diagnostics. We really need to become proactive because we can't. If something like COVID happens again, we need to
mm,
be anticipating these things before,
mm,
because that's where the backlog starts to happen. So I think there's this huge change from reactive to proactive, which is one of the big things.
mm,
Um, I think that's what's driving a lot of innovation at the moment, is to
mm.
sort of, which is why we need better diagnostics, better
Yeah.
treatments, and even there are loads of priorities, strategic priorities that have been set out by the government. For example, working on early detection of cancer, because cancer is a massive cause of deaths across the world. So there are loads of strategic priorities. Mental health is another one. I think a part of that is like dementia.
Mm,
So there's loads of different strategic priorities and areas of focus that the
mm,
government have also set out. So I think there's been this shift now, and there are all these areas of focus set out, which is where these all these new innovations can come
yeah, yeah.
and help us.
Yeah, it feels like the corona has accelerated the shift, sort of accelerated the feeling we had before the pandemic. We have to do something, we need to change, but nothing really happened. And then the pandemic came, and I remember my business, I turned my business in 2 weeks to be completely digital, and I was forced. I sort of had
Yeah,
procrastinated a bit,
it's a
Yeah,
catalyst. Yeah,
it's a catalyst, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, a huge
I think
catalyst.
I think also just not just for the industry, just for people, because it really stopped people from doing things that they would have done,
Mm,
really paused life for everyone.
past life.
So once it was all open again,
Mm.
it was kind of like, okay, I need to do what I want to do now, because you don't know when these things are gonna
No, you don't know
happen.
when it's gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we're coming to the end of the podcast here. Time really flies when you have wonderful discussions with people like you here. So if you now look back on things, and you are still very young, you have a long career in front of you. Um, what would you have done differently if you have with considering with the information you have today? What would you have done differently if you had to redo your PhD?
Oh, if I had to redo my PhD, I think I would. That's a really good question. I think like what I said before was really, but this is something that you would need to install in yourself from the beginning of your PhD. I was very always. This is a natural feeling, but it's
Mm,
a very stressful journey, isn't it? So I think you need to sort of learn how to keep your stress, how to deal with stress management, if you have anxiety, things like that from
mm,
the beginning, because
mm,
you're going to need it
mm,
throughout your journey. And if you have these things under your belt, you'll be able to work on your project a lot better. You
mm,
might have the capacity to think about your for example, market opportunities. If that's something that you're interested in, you will have the capacity to do other things, and you will feel like you are achieving a lot more if you get these things under your belt from the first day.
Mm. So
I
what I
think
hear
that's
is that to handle anxiety and stress from the beginning, maybe have a PhD coach supporting you with that. What I
yeah,
also have, yeah, and what I hear is also that you very early on start to think about your next step. You don't have to
yes.
take a decision, but at least follow what's going on the
I think
market. Mm.
having some sort of rough plan in your head is a
Yeah.
really good way. As that's essentially what because when I finished the ICUR program, I decided to quit, which was very risky, and I went traveling for
Mm.
3 months. But what
Yeah.
I did do was I worked really hard at Christmas to apply for loads of jobs, to
Yeah.
apply to really research what I wanted to go into, make sure I research other potential careers, so that when I do come back from traveling, I'm not sitting with nothing to do. Although luckily for me, I got the job that I really
Mm.
wanted whilst I was traveling.
Yeah, and that shows clearly that what you did was you took a step back,
Yeah,
worked a little bit more resilience, and did not worry about that. I don't get a job now after my PhD, because after a PhD, when I tell you, when I finished my PhD, we were told to take a break because you were PhD tired after your PhD. It's like
yeah.
going to a gold medal in an athletic game. And then when you got the medal around your neck, you start to work on Monday. It's not human. You should take a break. So when you take a break, life will come to you sometimes. Yeah.
I think in the UK that's that mindset. I'm not sure if that's what was like it before, but that's
Mm.
completely lost today.
Yeah.
And I really felt that I would be judged if I don't have
If you don't.
anything in
Mm.
place after. Luckily, I got onto this program, but actually, I didn't want to have a job. I really wanted to go traveling. That's something I always wanted to do. It's been a huge part of my life since I was young. Unfortunately, because of COVID, I wasn't
Yeah.
able to, which is why luckily this sort of program worked really well for me. But
Mm.
after it finished, which is when COVID was ending, I was thinking, what I really want to go, but if I continue this job, maybe spin this out, I'll never have time and I'll have to quit if I want to do something that I really want to do for myself. So I took a huge risk. I left it after 3 months, which is not that much experience, but some experience. I did what I wanted to do, which is what traveling, and I'm honestly so grateful and happy that I did that, because I think I would have been more upset if I was doing what I was doing
If you
before.
do know. And
Yeah,
I'm going to stop there, but I will share with the listeners here and I'm going to strengthen what you say. You see, I'm a completely different generation from you, but when I finished my PhD, we took a break. We were told, take a break because you need to rest, you need to recover. Otherwise, you will work hard after PhD and you will be too tired to take a good decision. So, my best friend, she traveled for 6 months and then she started. And me, I just took a spare time job. And then I actually went for a postdoc, but that was a gap in between. And that is called recovery time. And
yeah,
it's called that you are post PhD tired. And
yeah.
that is lost in these days.
It's
People
completely
today,
lost.
you do PhD and then you run to the next steps and say, listen, nah, no, no.
Yeah,
We need to take a little bit of recovery time
yeah.
if
I
it's
mean,
possible.
I didn't,
Yeah.
because I did my undergraduate
Mm.
till masters, which is 4 years,
Mm.
and then I started my PhD. So,
Yeah.
and then I finished last year. So that's 9 years with nothing. There's no break.
No,
That's a,
right.
a really lot, nearly a decade. And I'm so surprised that hardly that many people in my department do it, because I just felt when I came back to my job, I'm so much more motivated and happy. I used to be so unhappy in my PhD because of my anxiety, and now I'm a completely different person. Even
Different
though I do
person.
have anxiety, there's so many things I learned when I was traveling, especially being flexible and adaptable, because when you travel, things can change all the time. And now I can deal with situations 100 times better now.
Mhm. Yes, good advice. Good advice. Take a break. So, with that said, I think that was a very good ending here. So, I would say thank you very much, Saji, for this wonderful time you spent with me here. And to you guys, I say don't forget. PhD career stories. We are always here for you. And you find we have over 100 podcasts on our webpage. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, etc. And you find our webpage, phdcareerstories.com. Never hesitate to reach out to us. We are there for you. So this is Tina Persson, PhD Career Stories. Have a lovely day and take care.
Bye.